All right, guys. So I'm Lainey here with the Healing Lotus, and we have Vic here with the book, rolling with it. Okay, guys. So I've known Vic for a good minute, right? And I've had his book, and it's just been sitting there looking at me for a moment. But I decided I was like, I need to read his book before I interview him because I wanna know what's in here. And so here he is. Let him introduce himself. Hi, Vic.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Vik, or Vikash Shivdasani is my full name. That's my author name. And I wrote this book called Rolling with It, Lessons Learned While Sitting Down, published in 2021, which is really going over my whole journey. I had an accident back in 2006 that left me in a wheelchair that caused me to really get super curious about life and why things happen and how we can influence it. And that just took me on a journey that eventually made me a transformational coach and healer and now doing events and all sorts of things. So that's me in a
That's
nutshell.
him. Oh my God. So there's so much like, first of all, I just want to say that I've been crying, laughing, and back and forth. And oh my God, it's such a beautiful book. And look, I didn't get to finish all of it. I was like on the at night, I was like on it. And I mean, I think the ending is probably stuff you've already mentioned in your previous workshops.
Mhm.
But man, it just gives you a sense of if you've complained in life, like I just wanted to kick myself. I just want to say that, like, because the struggles you faced throughout this entire journey is so incredible, and oh my God, it just like forced. Talk about it being forced into a situation that there's nothing else you can do, and having to surrender. Like, oh my God, like you talk about how it took you about 3 years to
Mhm.
finally be like, I guess this could be the new reality, right?
Right.
Do you want to kind of talk us through that part?
Yeah, I mean, when my accident happened, I was 22 years old. I was just, at the end of college. I was like on the verge of graduating, and so this was a blow that really changed everything. And for to explain what happened, I went out partying with a bunch of my friends and my some of my cousins and stuff, and we drank a lot that night. And I was a big drinker back in college, and we were decided to have the after party at my apartment and we took cabs to and from the club because we're responsible drunk people, you know? And so we did that and we got back to my apartment and one of the cabs was missing that had a couple of my cousins and a few of my friends in there. And I got to my apartment. I got to the balcony to call my cousin who's in the missing cab. And he's like, we're right around the corner. And so I leaned over the balcony to see if I could see any headlights coming. And I just lost my balance. And the last thing I remember was losing my balance. And the next thing I know, and I'm being awoken on the ground. And it just became this whole thing. And the doctors told me that I was going to be in a wheelchair and I had like a 5% chance of ever walking again. I broke my T10, T11 on my vertebrae, on my spinal cord, the vertebrae on my spinal cord. Um, and and so from there, it was I just didn't accept. I was like, this can't be my life. I spent the next 3 years traveling around the world to try out all sorts of alternative treatments on my parents' dime. I got beautiful, loving parents who were on this journey with me, and um and yeah, after those 3 years, I met a guru who's actually in my family in like August 2009, I believe. And I was really just distraught. Like nothing, everything that I tried, all the alternative treatments that I tried, nothing worked. So I kept getting like disheartened and like heartbroken in a way. And so like, I told her, I was just like, I'm going through like all this and I've tried so many things and what do I do? And she was just like, she told me like the most simplest thing I could ever hear that was so profound. And she just said, if this is your life right now, how are you going to live it? And it just completely switched everything in my brain. And from that moment, it was like, all right, if this is the moment, if this is where I am, where do I go from here? And then from there, I moved out of my parents' house and I started going. I moved back to Houston. I went back to school and I started doing a bunch of things. and it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, I mean, and I can imagine like 22 years old, like you're so young, and to have to, be forced into a wheelchair and completely change your life around. I mean, you speak about a relationship that you were in and having to walk away from that, and like just the all the stuff that was taken from you at once. Like, my God, I can't even imagine. I mean, as me going through it, it's just like, wow, that is just hard and tough, and my God, but the transformation was incredible. I did see also that I was reading also that you were on this journey of healing, like trying to find another technique and another technique. And I can see how that would be super heartbreaking. Like you're really on that passion. You're seeing everybody else like walking, going from being in a wheelchair to walking, and it even more encourages you. And then to have to kind of fail is just really disheartening. But transforming your mentality and starting to live life, because my God, you've done so many things
Hmm.
on your chair that most people don't do in their lifetime, being in fear and not pursuing what they want to do, and you just going out there and getting everything. I mean, skydiving, like, God, like, tell me about your adventures. Like, tell us about your adventures, everything you've been on this journey.
Well, when I accepted and started moving forward in the wheelchair, it was just there were so many fears and there were so many things that I wasn't sure about what I was capable of doing. And so as I started to just overcome my obstacles, and initially it was just things like going grocery shopping and like teaching, like learn, like proving to myself that I could live on my own in a wheelchair and like all that stuff. Once I got over that, it was just like, what else could I do? And so I always, like, before my accident, I always wanted to go skydiving, and then an opportunity came up in, I think it was 2011, to go skydiving with some friends, and I called the people and they were like, yeah, we can get you down. So I just did it. And then, I mean, so there's so many things that I've done. I mean, there was things I wasn't sure about, going on roller coasters and going to a theme park and how I could do that. And I went and I did that, and it turned out to be, better than I expected. Like, not only did I ride every thrilling ride that I did this at Universal Studios in Florida, and not only did we ride every thrilling ride that they had to offer, but we did it in record time because I got to cut in front of every line thanks to my wheelchair.
Now I know who I need to go to these rides with.
Absolutely.
VIP pass.
Yeah, and I mean, and now it's like, there's a lot of things about I've met people often in social situations that never met somebody in a wheelchair before. So just naturally I like to joke a lot, and I used to say things like, that's how I roll, or like throw something in there, and people would, like laugh, and it would always like break the ice. And that eventually led me to being a comedian in Houston for like a couple of years back in like 2014, 2015, and I killed it every time. Like, it's just like it's stuff that you don't really hear about, and I'm making fun of myself, and it's so that was another big thing I did for a while that eventually led to motivational speaking, that led to uh guiding people in meditations and learning all sorts of healing techniques, and now putting workshops together. And it's just,
And writing
it's
your book.
and writing my book, and it's just there's a lot, and it keeps kind of unfolding, so it's been a journey for sure. Hard, many things, but I mean, hard, difficult is just what you perceive it to be. And if you choose to go through whatever challenge it is and allow yourself to go through it and get to the other side of it, there's a different version of you at the end of it every time. And if you
Yeah,
choose to do that, that's where the magic happens, and
yeah,
you step into this stuff. It takes courage, but the more you build that muscle, the more you're capable of doing anything you want to do.
exactly. So, can you kind of talk us through like synchronicities and all the synchronicities you encountered and your family as well, like as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. So synchronicities are kind of like, these magical coincidences that happen, that
Coincidence.
these coincidences that
Coincidences.
that happen, that you really can't, like, that you, like that just didn't happen by chance, you know. It's like I see them as communications with the universe or communication with God. It's a reflection of whatever's kind of happening. And my first experience of it was really after I accepted my injury and like started moving forward. And I think like when you really start moving forward in your journey, whatever the things that scare you, and you kind of go and overcome, life, God, universe like supports you in a way. And so one thing I wanted to do when I moved to Houston after I accepted, was I wanted to play wheelchair basketball. And then literally like the first week I'm driving in Houston, I see a billboard on the highway that was this thing called Abilities Expo that had like every possible wheelchair situation from medical supply companies, wheelchair companies, like just a big expo of all sorts of vendors. And then they had wheelchair sports. So I got involved with that, started playing wheelchair basketball. Um, and then I wanted to get a job, and I was living at these apartments on campus at the University of Houston. And I would just think, I was just like, it would be so cool if I just like worked here. I could just like get up and then like go to work, you know. And literally, like, I was just thinking of it, and then one day I got an email saying that there's a job opening, and I knew the director of the building, so I went to go talk to her. She pretty much like hired me on the spot. I had this like minor interview, and then I got in and I started giving tours to people in the apartment complex or in the apartment building. And people would literally come up to me and be like when they saw me and be like, "You're gonna give us a tour like a dude in a wheelchair, you know?" I'd be like, "Yep, you better keep up because I'm hell on wheels, baby," you know. And just things like that. And then it's kind of evolved into a whole other thing now. The level of synchronicity I've experienced, and just to give a taste of what I'm talking about is it was like in 2022, I was in Austin. I went to this like fall equinox ceremony, it's a spiritual ceremony. And I met this dude, and we were just talking, and I was telling him a lot of the things that have happened to me and the bunch of synchronicities and stuff. And he was like, wow, I've like never really heard like that level of of stuff that happened to people. He's like kind of newer on a spiritual journey. And so I was like, yeah, I was like, this is what happens. We shared information. 2 days later, I go to a comedy show with somebody else, like they're completely unrelated situations. And we're at this comedy show, and we're at our table. It's like the small tables for like two people. And literally right before the show starts, the usher comes and he's like, "Hey, we're putting we're adding two people to your table." And I was like, "What?" I was like with this chick, you know, and it was just like, like, I don't need this. And then, but literally, these two guys walk into our table, and one of the dudes was the same dude from 2 days earlier at the
Wow.
ceremony, like just ridiculous. So every time things like that happen, I just kind of see it as I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and the universe is communicating that to me. You
Yeah.
know?
But it's so amazing, like all of it. And yes, the synchronicities, I would agree as well. For me, it's been like that, like where it's kind of like everything just aligns. And sometimes you think, help me clear this out, but you say like manifestation is where you're constantly, right before you go to bed, you're thinking about it. Like the more you think about it, the better. But sometimes you have moments like that where you just say, oh, I'm gonna do that, and then it shows up, which is
Right.
like thoughtless almost. So can you kind of explain what's the difference there?
I
Because I,
love
I
that
feel like
question.
that happens faster for me than when I'm actually like really, am I obsessed over it, or am
Right.
I don't know. Talk about
I
that.
love that question so much. I think I think we can manifest in two different ways. And when people approach manifestation in two different ways, and one is from your ego, and one is from your soul. And the ego, right, is like, we want like it's based on our identity and our conditioning and our
Material. It's a
situations. Yeah. And so it's like I have this much money in the bank account. I want to manifest $100,000. I'm gonna keep thinking $100,000 and I'm gonna get it. But that's like work, and it's like
shoot. I
effort.
need to
It's like
change mine.
yeah. And it's not that you shouldn't do that, like put it out there. But I think a lot of times when it comes like from the things that we feel like we lack in our lives, and we're trying to manifest something to kind of counter that, we're doing it from a place of lack. We're doing it from a place of conditioning. Um, and then when it comes from your soul, it's more of like this, like it's from your intuition. You know, you're not thinking like, oh, like I need this and I need that, I need this. It's just like, oh, do this. It's just this thing that just drops into you. That's like, oh, I got to do this event, or I got to call this person, or I got to whatever it is. And it's not heavy, it's not analytical, it's not any of that. It's just this, it's this essence of you. Call the intuition the GPS of our soul. And so when we really understand to kind of like separate or can identify what is ego and what is our soul and come more from the soul place, that's where you have the more effortlessness and things kind of happening around you and supporting to that. The dream to have the $100,000 and all that stuff is all in that journey,
Yeah.
but we got to be able to follow those steps.
Yeah, so kind of like not forcing it, like because we're forcing the outcome, we're forcing how it happens, we're forcing how it should work out, and I guess like when you're just kind of like effortlessly thinking about it, it just flows better and easier.
Yeah.
But I guess also, yeah, like the lack mentality of like, if I had this amount of money, I could do this. So
Yeah.
that's where it's failing. I see. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, that's I always question that. It's like, oh my God, like it's confusing because I literally I feel like when I manifest in that way, which I didn't even think I was manifesting, it just happens faster. Like I swear I'd be like, dang, like I literally just thought that, or just like a thought, and then it shows up for you. It's amazing.
Because there's no resistance there, right?
Yeah,
When you're trying to like really force and manifest something, I need this, I want this, when is this going to happen? Like you're already putting out like this lack. It's not here yet. It's not happening. And
energy.
so- and it has to do with what we've been through, our traumas, our struggles, all that stuff. So there's a piece there that it's also about like releasing that the emotions, processing and healing the emotions, because if you're feeling like you're forcing and stuff, you're probably coming from a wound.
Yeah,
And so when we clear that, we have more of an open space. Now there's less resistance or the less need. We don't want to need it to happen. We
yeah,
want things to happen.
yeah,
Once we need it to happen, now it's a condition of our happiness. We're not going to be happy till it happens. When is this
yeah,
gonna, you know what I mean? And it's a process to really kind of because this is your consciousness that you're really feeling into, and we're 95% subconscious. That means we're 95% completely based out of habit, completely based on what we've chosen to think and feel and act over and over and over again. So if you're depressed or anxious or something like that, you've probably conditioned yourself to be that way. And so it takes really clearing those thoughts and feeling. There's a myriad of ways that you can do it, whether it's meditation or breath work or journaling or sound healing or whatever your thing is, energy work. There's so many things out there that people, there's practitioners and all sorts of stuff. And this is what I do with people too. And so, but when the more you clear that, the more you can come into that open space and the more you can connect to intuition, because when you have a lot of thoughts and trauma and wounds kind of playing out and you got those stories kind of going, it's harder to hear intuition because you have all this noise kind of happening. And so it's really releasing the stuff, reprogramming it. So how do you want to think and feel, and practicing that, and really more practicing that you're capable of doing and feeling and being a certain way, rather than like I want the money, is
mhm,
a better way to manifest,
yeah,
right? Because you're trying to become that person. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. And so it's in your energy and your vibration, and it has everything to do with the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you're thinking and feeling and doing on a regular basis.
yes. So I guess also like talk to us about like you talked about in your book about like the way we feel about money, right? So the way I guess so your father grew up where he like money was lacking, right? And so
Mm.
he instilled a certain energy in you. You didn't lack money as a child, but you still had this energy towards money. Can you kind of explain that like process and what you realized to figure it out to get out of that energy? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad had a lot of trauma. Like his mom died when he was 13, and yeah, like at 16, 17, he like left his house and he went to go work, and his dad, he grew up pretty poor, and like and so really when he moved and he started making his own money, he was like supporting his dad and like this whole thing. And so like he never knew inner work and healing and stuff like that. So like money was a big trigger for him. Like in all ways. And so growing up, my dad, when it came to money and buying things, my dad would always get stressed, or he would always get angry, and like things would always like he would always get like it would always be triggered. When I wanted to buy things, I remember like buying a video game and him kind of getting mad. It was just all little things, but like everything would stress him out because he never healed his stuff. And so it was instilled in me in a young age that money is hard and you got to work hard, and it's all these
And it's
things, right?
scary and it's like tension, right?
Yeah, it's tension. And so like so for a long time, money was scary for me. Like, like coming out of college, even before my accident, like there was a lot kind of going on there. And I was in the space of getting into a place to get a job and make money and like all this stuff. But I feared it in a way. And there was a lot of things that happened a year before my injury. I had a DWI. There was a lot of things with alcohol that caused me to kind of sabotage that situation. And then through my injury, through my parents paying for my treatments and like a lot of stuff, there were still more things that were coming out as far as me feeling like a burden that I had that my parents were supporting me financially. And yeah, so you feel like a fuck up. I've definitely felt like a fuck up. When you get paralyzed because you drank too much, it's a hard thing to swallow. And so I really lived with that I was a burden, that I was a fuck up, that I was all these things, and that I wasn't capable. And it's really taken, well, it's taken a while, but it's really me understanding that I've taken this stuff from my father, and beyond him, the culture and how my family viewed money and the stresses and everyone put on it that you just kind of take on as a child. And so really shifting from all of that and knowing that especially when we're really manifesting from our soul and our intuition, that you're really co-creating this life. Everything can be easy
Mhm.
if you choose it to be. And 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 it comes back to the subconscious. We're 95% programmed, right? So you got to change those beliefs and those thoughts and function from a new way of being. And I've been a coach since 2019. So it's really been not only like fear of money, but I'm also stepping into something that's like not really heard of, that you're going to make a lot of until recently this has been a thing here. But culturally, like to get paid to help people and emotionally or spiritual work, it's like almost frowned upon in my culture. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're more of a martyr, or like whatever that is, if you like give things for free, or you're cheap because you're there to help people. It's like, I want to live, and I want to have money, and I want to have luxury, and I want to, they can both coexist. So I have to shift a lot of those beliefs in this journey. But I would say really in the last year or so, year and a half, it's just come to the place of just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. This is who I am. I have like value to give people. And really when you understand who you are and get into that place, you're supported, and things
Yeah.
come, but the faucet kind of opens. But you got to kind of clear the lack mentality around it.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Okay, so yeah, like a different change of energy, also kind of like, you how you were saying like living like you already have it. So I guess I read somewhere that I guess be in that, like how does a person walk when they have the money? How does like it's confident, like you walk into a room and you look like money, you look like you have this, you look like, so that energy to be in it, that's already the way you're gonna attract it to you, the way it's gonna come to you. Also, when you like, you're about to charge someone for something, like the energy of that you give to get paid, like if
Mhm.
you're like, oh, it's this amount, like it's, if you're intimidated to say the price, then there's like an energy that you're giving that you don't
Deserve.
value your own
Yeah.
gift, right? Yeah, it's a whole thing. I do see it's gonna take work to kind of get people to getting out of the way they were raised for all these years, and not brainwashing but brainwashing
Yeah,
of like
totally.
being convinced that this is how it is and it has to be, and breaking free, it's incredible. um I guess also, tell us about, your encounters with the people in your book. So the people that read, I guess, the books, you have Anita, you have Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
Tell us about those
Yeah,
experiences.
I'll start with Wayne Dyer because this man has passed away a few years ago, but he was a he's a big author, speaker. I don't know, he must have wrote like 30 or 40 books around this subject since like the 70s. And after my accident, my mom got really into him and really like liked his teachings and a lot of stuff. And this was kind of like my first experience of like really this manifestation world. But my mom, like, she wanted to go to this event in New York, so we went to this event, and literally on the way over there, like we were like on the plane, and she's like saying, "I'm gonna meet Wayne Dyer. I'm gonna meet Wayne Dyer. I'm gonna meet Wayne Dyer." She's just saying it over and over again because that's what Wayne Dyer talked about, like in his books and talks and stuff. That's how you manifest. And my mom and I was just looking at my mom like, "You're crazy. Like there's gonna be like 3,000 people at this event. Like, how are you gonna meet Wayne Dyer? You know?" And then we get to the event and we get to our seats. My mom goes to the bathroom to like touch up her makeup and stuff. And then she comes out and Wayne Dyer's standing right there. And then she goes to him and she's crying and she's like, "Wayne Dyer, like your work has meant so much to me. My son had this accident. We're here today to hear your talk and all this stuff." And he was hugging her and he was wiping her tears and like all this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, your son's here." And then he's like, "All right, I gotta get on stage." And he goes on stage and he starts this entire talk in front of like 3,000 people. So I just met this lady and her son had this accident and like it was ridiculous. Like I was sitting there like, what is happening right now, you know? And he's like telling my story in front of everyone. And then he called my mom up on stage and gave her this purse that his like daughter made that he gave her as a gift. And it was just this crazy moment. And that moment was just kind of like, all right, I need to understand how this thing works. That was the moment. And so after that, I just went on a journey to like, whoever I felt called to, and there was a lot of synchronicity. But one of the people was Anita Murjani, and this lady, um, she had cancer like all over her body, like the size of lemons, and she went into a coma in 2006. And she essentially passed away and went into the other realm as like a soul, as just an energy. She describes it really fully, and she wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. And in that space, she met her father and her best friend, who also died from cancer. And she was given a message that she was going to come back to life, miraculously heal, and she had a mission to teach the world to love themselves. And she also was Indian and is Indian and comes from my same culture, and as a woman like was really a people pleaser and like just not putting herself first and always like feeling fearful and like a lot of things. And so in that experience, she had the awareness that she was never living her life for herself. And so that was the real big cause of her cancer. And so she made a big transformation coming out of that, wrote a book, became a speaker and all this stuff. And she was a mentor of mine for a number of years, early on, especially when I was, from 2014 to 2017. I had starting in this journey 2011, but those 3 years was really potent because life was giving me all sorts of medical challenges and a lot of situations that I had to face and heal that really brought up my own stuff. But she was a big player in that. And then after that, I learned about Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is really an interesting dude. He hosts these workshops all around the world that can have anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 people for a week long. And you're like meditating 4 to 5 hours a day. And he's a neuroscientist, so he's teaching he's teaching the science of our mind and our bodies and our subconscious and how we manifest, and but from a very scientific point of view, which is something I was missing in my understanding with everything so far in that journey. And so I've been to like 11 Dr. Joe workshops at this point.
Wow.
I've met Dr. Joe Dispenza. He knows who I am. We've had conversations. There's been many things around that. And then more recently, I've been working with Donnie Epstein, who is like Tony Robbins's like energy guy, which
Okay,
is
okay. Wow, that's big.
yeah, I did a year-long mentorship program with him, and I've been to a couple of events since 2020. And that dude is just like on another level. Like, but all this stuff has to not only science, but energy, emotional healing. I mean, it's all this stuff kind of wrapped in one. All these things matter when it comes to manifestation and creating your life. But all these people I recommend looking up. Donnie Epstein literally just came out with a book recently called The Seeker's Code, your access to unreasonable and extraordinary. And it's just the idea that at any given moment or any time in your life, you have a certain set of thoughts, right? Whether you're feeling angry or like a low vibration, or you're feeling happy, whatever it is, you have a certain frequency, a band of thoughts equal to that vibration. So if you understand, and Donnie teaches next level ways to do this, but if you understand that it's really about just shifting your frequency, and when you know how to do that, you'll go to a certain level of a whole different set of thoughts. Most people are just stuck in their thoughts, in their frequency, and just playing the same loop over and over again.
Yeah.
And when you're in that and you think there's no way out, but you got to understand that you're functioning from a certain frequency, and it's about
Yeah.
shifting that to a higher energy to be able to think differently.
So, okay, where you when you go into that, it brings me to like you attract what you are, right? So basically you keep attracting the same relationship. You keep
Right.
attracting, which is because you're still in that vibration that you can't come out of. Sorry, let me make a note because I don't want to forget that I'm going back to this other question. But so you're in that vibration, right? And then you also attract the same people, like friends, those type of situations, because you're still in that vibration. So I guess the example that I want to give is that I've been, I want to break free, like
Yeah.
I'm trying, but it keeps feeling like I keep getting drawn back in and drawn back in. So like example is my friends are still in that like party scene, like want to go out. And so I really like avoid it a lot. Like I stay to myself. I don't really go out as much. But every now and then I go find them to go, because I miss them. They're my best friends. And I've been telling the universe, like, I don't want to let them go. Please change, like help them change. Like I want them on this side. But it feels like every time I go back, it's like it pulls me back 10 steps. Like I worked all this and it pulls me back 10 steps. And it's like the energy is like, okay, explain that to me. Like
Yeah.
I know I have my idea, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, I love that question. So one thing is they say that like the five closest people to you is like the sum of who you probably are.
Yeah.
And so the people you hang out with, what you're exposed to, the things you watch, what you listen to, everything plays a part in what your vibration is. And a lot of times we look at our external world, the things outside of us, as the things that um we want to change the external things like the wife or the partner or whatever it is, or the job or whatever it is. And sometimes that's the case, but we're more focused on the external world and thinking that needs to change for us to change within. And so it actually starts from you within, and you've been on that journey, kind of clearing. So when you start really doing the inner work and you're not really using the outside to kind of change, because it's not the next partner or the next friend. But when you change internally and your vibration raises, you're not going to be as connected to the same situations, because you're kind of a different person now. You think differently, you function differently, so that vibration that your friends are in is not, even though like you have the memories and the friendship and the connection, it's not really anything wrong with them, but you're on this journey of elevating. And so it only makes sense that like attracts like, that you're going to have more people that are more in that vibration and that you're going to connect with. I can't tell you how many friends I've left. Like, like there's so many, like in so many different situations and so many different chapters of my life, I've had so many different groups of friends, and I've just prioritize this inner work and this journey. And as I go on it, there's people that follow and are along it, and there's people that just fall away because it's not the same pace, it's not the same space. So it really is, yes, you want them to change, and maybe they will change at some point. It's everyone's kind of on their journey, but it's there's a piece of attachment there, right? And you feel like you're attached to them, and you are in a way, but you're also attached to your old life
Whole
and your old
life.
way of being.
Okay,
And
okay.
so when you're with them, it also brings up like that stuff. But then you're also feeling like I'm going 10 steps back
Yeah,
because I'm going back to that old version of me. And so it really is, and so all of that stuff plays a part in how we're changing and reprogramming
yeah.
our subconscious. And so it might be good to just let it go and let it flow, in a way.
So I guess it makes me think like I guess what's you mentioned a key word there that made me like, ooh, that's what it is. Like I don't want to abandon them. I don't want to let them go. So that's what I'm feeling like I'm not being a good friend by leaving them, but I have to not see it as I'm leaving them. I'm
Right.
just on my journey. I have a higher purpose that I'm going towards. And I can still like, check up on them and make sure they're okay. Like I'm not completely like abandoning them. I'm just on another journey and that's it. And that's how I have to view it. And oh, that I feel free right now. Yay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the abandonment and all that stuff like makes sense, and it's like that comes back to the conditioning, right? Like if I'm a good friend, then I need to be in connection, and I need to be at these things that they're gonna love me and all that stuff,
Yeah,
right? And it's like, and it's not even about that. It's about you loving yourself and putting
yeah,
yourself first, and
yeah.
what feels, and it's scary to kind of move forward and with new friends or new situations and stuff like that. But that's growth,
So,
and yeah.
um, I think Anita said it, or so I don't know who said it, but in your book you put this, unless we love ourselves, nothing else in our lives can function at its best. So, filling our cup, like taking care of us, that's the main important in order to evolve and be able to become the best version of you,
And
right?
something I do with my clients, I tell them to make like two lists. Make one list of all the things that drain you, and then make one list of all the things that like energize you and lift you up. And the things that drain you, look at them, right? Like there may be some things you can tweak or approach differently, and there may be, and probably most of that list is like, I'm just done with it. Because if it's depleting you or it's pulling you down in some way, then it's not loving to you, right?
Okay, it
It
froze there
froze
for a
myself.
moment, so go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we don't want to miss it. Tell
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. I tell my
Yeah,
clients
two lists.
this. Make one list that depletes you, one list that energizes you. And if you look at
Okay.
the things that deplete you, a lot of those things, some of those things you might be able to shift or look at differently or approach differently, but most of those things you're probably just done with. And it's about understanding that every time you put yourself in a place that's draining you, it's not loving to you. Because you're
Okay.
doing it
Yeah.
for another person. You feel it. You feel
Yeah.
the heaviness. You feel the resistance. Oh, I'm gonna go to that club again, or I'm gonna go hang out. Okay, here
Yeah.
we go. Like and
Yeah.
like you don't need to put yourself in that because you're feeling that heaviness, and the more you focus on the things that energize you and pick you up and follow that, that's where the magic happens. That's where you're more into the journey with your soul and your higher self.
So, that makes sense because, like, okay, like now when I go out, I'm there and energetically, I'm literally like, why am I here? Like
Hmm.
we're there, we're doing the same thing we used to do, right? And I mean, it's because people say, oh, it's because you're older. I'm like, no, like I look like the people, like I look their age, like I fit in very well, but I don't feel right. I feel like, why am I here? I'm wasting my time. Like I just don't feel like I fit there anymore, like it's like, and I hadn't realized that it's exactly where I'm not showing myself love right there. Ugh,
Hmm.
okay, thanks. I'm trying, guys. I know I'm here supposedly for this book, but I'm just getting free information from Vic here to help me on my journey. Another thing, okay, so with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So if you're in that place of, because all this stuff sounds magical and crazy, right? So if you're having trouble fitting in the magic, then find Dr. Joe Dispenza because he explains the science behind the breath, behind the magic, behind the how we're attracting it all, right? So that's where I wanted to bring that little topic up. Um, let's see.
Yeah, just a little piece I want to add there to what you just said. Like your brain has an electromagnetic field. Okay.
Mhm.
Your heart has like 100, I think like 300 times or something crazy. The electromagnetic field is your brain. So we think, we have thoughts that create emotions, that create feelings that are literally emitted out of you as energy. And we have an energy field right around us. Like scientists have measured that when people are in really high emotional states like love, joy, freedom, they can probably measure their field out, up to 10 feet outside their body, right? And so that's really the scientific space of like how you attract, because it's electromagnetic energy. And then we can go to other levels of like that. Donnie Epstein talks about like another level where not only do we have a field, but then there's like there's a whole field that connects all of us, and we're all plugged into that. And so the more and more we expand our field or do the inner work, when we're in fear, our field is smaller, it's shrinker. When we're more in that higher emotional state, we're more in a bigger field, and we're thinking greater thoughts. So the more we're able to expand our field, do the inner work and connect, fill our cup, don't go to the clubs and tap into all that stuff, right? Like now you're more connected to this higher field,
Yeah.
and that you have access to live an extraordinary life. Like it's a bandwidth, it's a frequency that you're able to tap into, where you get the downloads to the intuition to go the direction that you feel called to go. Right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And so, okay, like another thing was, you know how Dr. Joe mentions how some of his meditations are to get us out of our root, which is our fight or flight, where we're like standoffish and we're like blocking things, to
Mm,
get to the creative where we attract and things flow to us. So I guess that's in the same feel of like you getting out of that energy into like attraction. You can
mhm.
you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of have like my formula for this,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like, because challenges are always happening, things are always happening. We're being aware, oh, I'm feeling angry right now, or this is causing me to feel a certain way, and we're aware of these things. And from there, one, it's the first step is always about acceptance. Just being okay with where you are, being okay with where you are without the need to change it. A lot of times we're feeling shitty. I need to feel better. I need to feel better. Like just be okay with where that is. Like that's the first step. The second step is to notice the fears and emotions coming in you, right? Like what is the fears coming up? What is causing you to, what are you afraid of in the future that you're feeling this way right now? Just notice that. From there, we want to meditate, do energy work, breath work, whatever it is, clear that energy, clear that energy. When you clear that energy, you come into more of a clear space where you can think better. It's called coherence. That's what Dr. Joe talks a lot about. We want to be in coherence where our brain and our body is basically in balance, it's aligned. A lot of the times we're in stress and fight or flight, where we're in emergency mode. And if you were to think about like when we were cavemen or something, like the stress response, the fears that came up, they came up when you were in danger, and you had to run, fight, or hide to save yourself, to be able to run from that danger. Well, nowadays we're having that fear all the time, and it's like your boss or your coworker, or it's your parents or whatever it is that's causing you to feel that way. And when we're feeling that way, our energy is actually being siphoning out to our arms and legs because it thinks we need to run, fight, or hide because there's danger. And scientists are saying that 70% of people live in that fight or flight stress response. I mean, most people live 70% of their lives in fight or flight. And so imagine that 70% of your
A
life
lot.
in emergency mode, right?
Ah,
And so then we talk about getting sick and breaking down, like all that stuff. If you're in emergency mode and your energy is being siphoned out to your arms and legs, then you don't have the energy for your body to digest everything properly, to for your heart to pump the right way, and all that stuff. And so we want to change that stuff. We want to be, that's why meditation and healing work and all this stuff gets you more present and calm. And from there is the place where you can think clearly. And so you've released the emotion, you're in the clear space. And now the last step is, what's the vision? What's the feeling you want to feel? Freedom, love, joy, confidence, courage, whatever that is. Tap into that and then live from that way. But
yeah.
it's all of these things, you know?
It's everything. Oh, there's just so much to pack into one. Like there's so many. I guess like a tree, like branches, that
Mhm.
it's magical. And like I said, we're probably gonna need another podcast because it's just so much, like so much information. But also I guess I had something on the top of my mind. Um, so let's talk about how you've manifested this whole life. Like, tell us where you're living right now. First of all, tell us where you're from and tell us where you're living. And I don't know if maybe you could show us your whole freaking backyard, but that's all I
Yeah,
got to say.
we could probably do that.
Okay.
Or I have a view here. I could probably show you where I'm at right now. So I'm from McAllen, Texas, and I currently live in Sedona, Arizona, which is what's known as an energy vortex. We talked about electromagnetic energy. We're electromagnetic energy. There's certain locations in the earth, there's multiple all over the world that are known as vortexes. And what that means is there's specific meridian lines of the earth called ley lines. And these ley lines have a certain electromagnetic frequency that a lot of whales, I mean, a lot of animals, whales, dolphins, a lot of different animals, they use this frequency to navigate the world. Okay. So now when there's multiple of these lines meet at a certain location, it creates this huge electromagnetic field, which is the vortex. And Sedona has like 7 or 8 of them, probably. And so I was called here. I did not I was never like I never thought like, oh, I'm gonna live in Sedona. It was really back in 2020. I went to my first vortex, which was Mount Shasta in August 2020. And I met all these spiritual people and healers and channelers and like some really woo-woo stuff. All right.
Who's
Some really woo-woo crazy stuff. And there was this one dude that I met over there. His name is Ryan. And we just like outside of the event, because I went to this event, after the event, I kept bumping into this dude at lunch in different areas of the town. Just synchronistically kept bumping into this dude. And I was like, all right, I got his info. And then I went back home August 2020. In October, I got a download and said, "You've never been to Sedona? Go check out Sedona." And Ryan's, I forgot to mention, lives in Sedona. Okay. So I'm just like thinking, like, where did that thought come from? And it was my intuition, but I completely just like second guessed it, or I just threw it away and I just let it go. And a month later, I spoke to this lady, psychic lady that I met also in Mount Shasta. And she out of nowhere, we're just having a conversation. She's like, "Are you thinking about going to Sedona? Because I'm getting if you're thinking about going that you should go." And I was just like, "Oh shit." Like, okay. I was like, I didn't tell anybody that, you know? So I was like, okay, universe, you want me to go to Sedona? Send me one more sign. And a week later, my friend hits me up, unrelated to anything. And he just goes, "Hey man, I just came back from Sedona. You would love Sedona." So I'm like, all right, I heard it. I got 3 messages and I planned a trip to Sedona that December for like 4 days, and I was blown away. But I mean, it's like it's super magical. Like, okay, okay, so December 8th, I came here December 20th, 2020 for 4 days and then was completely blown away by the place. The day before I left, I had lunch with Ryan. And the same time I had lunch with Ryan, he's upset because he literally just kicked out this dude that was living in the place, right? And because he wasn't paying bills and stuff. And so like he was just upset. He's like, "Man, this guy's been paying bills. I had to kick him out, whatever." And I was like, okay. And then the next day I went back to McAllen and I was just kind of like, all I could think about was like, I need to go to Sedona. I need to go to Sedona. I need to go to Sedona. And then I call Ryan. I'm like, "Yo, tell me about your spot." And he's like, "Well, it's on the bottom floor of a townhouse. Like it's like a studio. It's got a big bathroom. It's got a closet with a low hanging rack. So it was like perfect for me in a wheelchair, you know?" And I was like, okay. 3 weeks later, I moved. I ended up living here for a year and before going back to McAllen for a year and a half. And then this past June, a bunch of different things happened that brought me back here, and I'm living in this amazing house and a bunch of things here.
So talk about a coincidence of the
Right.
room being just perfect. Okay, because not just any room that we can accept, right? But a perfect room to fit your needs.
Totally.
Like, okay, so you ended up there and so now you're living in Sedona, which is another thing that happened so fast because I literally remember you telling me you were wanting to do it and you were moving and you were living there already, like fast.
It was ridiculous. Like it was June, June 10th, basically, I got this. I was planning to come here to visit. My friend opened up this taco truck, this organic taco truck out here. He'd been hitting me up to come and check it out. And so I was like, all right, I'm coming in June. I was planning to visit. And then like a few days, like literally a week before I was leaving, I did a mushroom journey. And and
Oh, my favorite.
yeah. And that's something we could probably talk about the next podcast and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But there's I do work with mushrooms and
Can you just at least explain like the what it's for, at least so we can get a little piece of it and
yeah, I mean a lot of people use mushrooms recreationally and it's like it's a trip and it blows you and you see things and like that kind of stuff and you do. The way I use them is super intentional. I think I've done a lot of different psychedelics in my life, not only mushrooms, but ayahuasca, bufo, a couple other things. and 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 so I've always seen that when you're really intentional about them and you do them in prayer and kind of in a spiritual sense, you get a lot of clarity. There's a lot of healing that comes from it, and so it's something I've been kind of putting together, and I've ran um, 7 mushroom ceremonies for people now. And then it's something that I do like, and we're not talking about I do this every week or like whatever it is. It's something that happens maybe every couple of months or whenever it feels kind of called to do it. But it can be really used as like a really good tool. So I did this journey on June 10th. And in that journey, it was like, you're not visiting Sedona, you're moving to Sedona.
moving.
And I was like, okay, here we go. And it was this, there was a lot of realizations in that journey that showed a lot of codependent patterns I still had with my parents and with my family in McAllen and a lot of things. And it just showed that in order for me to be as successful as I want to be and where I want to go, it's important for me to be here. And it's a very healing place. So there's a lot. I mean, it's not an easy place to live. If you're electromagnetic energy and you're living in a place that's really got high electromagnetic energy, your emotions are electromagnetic energy, it pushes things up. There's a lot of things to
Yeah.
feel. It's not for the faint of heart,
Uh-huh.
but but yeah, I mean that the Sedona is a really magical place. It's very spiritual, and a lot of people here live like this and have this understanding. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of put me in a community of people that live like this.
So, can you tell us about your workshops? What exactly do you do on your workshops?
Yeah, so they're magical manifestation workshops, and coming back to really that 5-step process that I said earlier about acceptance, identifying fears, releasing emotions, getting clarity, and creating that vision, feeling elevated emotions. I take people through a whole 3-hour process on doing this work and doing this stuff. And there's meditation, there's breath work, there's sound healing, there's a lot of my stories and jokes and a lot of next level concepts for you to think about. And I've done quite a few of those already too. So I'm doing my first one in Sedona on February 17th, and I don't have a date yet, but in McAllen, probably mid-March, I'm going to do another one.
Okay. And so the one in Sedona, in case anybody visits Sedona, when is that one?
That's February 17th, but even better than that is this retreat that I'm putting together. The website should be up next week, but it's
Okay.
called the Ultimate Sedona Retreat, and it's happening May 8th to 12th. And so there's a lot of, in the time I've been in Sedona, there's so many people I've connected with and so many things I've tried. And this is a next level place, guys. Like you see a lot of like UFO activity and different things like over here. It's a place I always tell people you got to check out. And so I'll put together this ultimate Sedona retreat that has I have an I'm bringing a lot of people into this. I've got an astrologer who's really going to give like a stargazing tour. Like we're going to go out at night, and she's going to and you see the stars here are amazing, the night sky, and so she's going to show you the different signs, the different astrological signs, and what it means in the moment. We're going to have a UFO tour, a guy who literally connects with the UFOs on a meditation, and then he brings out these night vision goggles and laser lights and stuff of pointing out what's going on in the sky. And I've done it 3 times, and I've seen some really crazy stuff out here. Um, we're also going to have a scenic Sedona tour. There's all these really amazing sites here. There's A lot of amazing viewpoints. Like it's like living in a national park. Like there's red rock mountains everywhere. And so there's different spots. There's the Buddhist stupa. It's got a medicine wheel and it's a really kind of holy place. There's the Chapel of the Holy Cross. It's got the Christian vibe to it. It's got an amazing view there, and there's other spots that it takes you to. I'm getting a guide who's going to take you up the most powerful vortex, which is Bell Rock. He's going to take you on a hike up there and do some. He plays the Indian flute. He's going to do a whole process and healing up there. There's going to be a mushroom ceremony. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. But May 8th to 12th, it's going to be ridiculous.
So are you guys staying in a specific location? Are you guys
Yeah,
traveling?
so I got an Airbnb. The Airbnb fits about 8 people. And it's in uptown Sedona. It's walking distance from shops and restaurants. So you'll have time on your own to kind of just check out some stuff. You want to buy shop and do all that. And then so I'm taking 8 people in the house, and there's about 6 to 7 people, some spots if you want to stay off site or anywhere else. And the retreat house is just basically our main space. Oh, and we're also going to be going to the local ecstatic dance here, which is literally dancing like really right by the Red Rocks. And it's a super big self-expression place, and people don't care here. They're open, and you're really going to get a taste of freedom on another level.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. And okay, so for people to get that specific one, you're working on that website.
Yeah, I'm working
And
on that website. You can follow me on Instagram at Rolling with Vic and send me a message there and if you're interested. But yeah, the site should be up really soon, so you'd be able to check it out and uh, reserve your spot there too.
perfect. And so when are you going to be back in McAllen again? Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, I haven't got my ticket yet, but I'm
Like,
thinking I'm going to be back around May 5th to May 19th. So it'll be
okay,
about 2 weeks where I'm going to do a few events out there.
okay, you're gonna be a few events. So are we gonna be like your workshops for your manifestation workshops or
We're going to do a manifestation workshop. We're going to do a mushroom ceremony, and I'll say it on your podcast because why not? But I have plans to create a plant medicine church where it's really about creating this like an organization that just helps the legalities with using this, using mushrooms and psilocybin and yeah, and then really creating an organization, really creating a movement here is what I'm feeling this
Mhm.
is, because it's not really just only the ceremonies, but it's everything else. Put these workshops and the meditations and the processes and really understanding how to live your life, live your best life, and all the components that come with it. So I have plans here in the next few months to have that launched, but that
Yeah.
would be like kind of under like the mushroom ceremonies. We can probably talk about it a lot more easier with that.
Yeah. And I think
In play.
just for people out there that, are not familiar with plant medicine, this is a science. There is a science to it. You either even can find stuff on Netflix where it talks about the science and how people are already doing it in other places. I'm not sure if in the United States yet, but there is like places that use it at like in an office set form where, they have the patient going with the I guess they call it microdosing, and they show like where they're getting like I guess taking notes on things what they're going through and what they're processing in their mind, which is just a form to help you heal childhood traumas, that brings things up that help you move forward in life, to that help you free you from things that you're holding on to. So just so people out there know, it's not, we're not just getting together to get messed up and party and like we're just trying to do drugs together.
Yeah, no, it's super healing. It's all about intention and doing it right. And I've had a lot of experience with it, and that has led to these creations. So, and again, like this has all been my intuition, and every time you step into your intuition, it's a little scary and growth, like, oh, I'm going to throw something that's, illegal and whatever. But at the same time, it's created so much healing and so much help for so many people, and what we've done so far. And so I can only really see this becoming bigger and really creating something out of it. We're going to call it Soul Land because it's really about connecting to our souls
Yeah.
and living from that place and understanding what that means. So there's a lot coming, and so another event that I'm planning on doing, which is going to be a free event. And I don't have the date yet or anything yet. I'll have it soon, but really a gathering for everyone interested in being a part of this new church and really kind of setting the precedence of what we're creating here.
So I guess like meditation, right? So you meditation center in McAllen
Right.
that people can visit. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's like, technically it's in Edinburgh, but yeah, it's
I'm sorry, Edinburgh.
it's on the border of McAllen and Edinburgh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's off of McCall and Trenton. It's called Infinite Love. It's a meditation center. They host workshops. They have everything we're talking about here. They do in all different ways. They have sound healers, different events that you can check out. Every Wednesday is free. It's a free meditation. It starts at 7 o'clock and it's like 30 minutes of usually a video or something inspirational, and then we do about a 30-minute meditation. It's really great for beginners and stuff if you want to kind of get into this and understand more of how to be this way. So yeah, definitely check it out. And there's other like paid events and stuff that you can check out over there, and a lot of things developing. So yeah, it's a if you're in McAllen, Edinburgh area, if you're in the Rio Grande Valley, like we got this amazing place, and when people go there for the first time, they're like, "Whoa, I've been looking for this," or "I can't believe there's a place like this out here," and it's there for you. So utilize it, answer the call. I'm sure so many people need this.
Yes, it's definitely feels really good for the soul. And I guess if you want to say a little bit of when people think, am I meditating right? And like, I don't feel like I'm doing it right. Like, you have some advice for that?
Yeah, so I like to think of people like we're all when you haven't really done any inner work, and so you're really running from your identity and your stories and your pain and your trauma and all that stuff, you are emotionally constipated. And so that's like
I
essentially
like
you
that.
think about it when we
Sounds
don't
terrible.
process and because emotions are energy. If you don't process and heal this stuff, they just build up in you. And so it's about um when you first start meditating, it's you're not gonna it's not common that when you start meditating, you're just gonna get into a calm place and relaxing. And people are like, I'm still having thoughts. I can't quiet my mind. It just wants to keep going. It's gonna do that. You got to sit in that in the beginning. You got to let that happen. Eventually, you're gonna have a little bit of hold on it. But meditation is like building a muscle. It's a building an awareness muscle, so that every time that you meditate, you're actually creating separation from you being the thinker, right? You're identified with all the thoughts to being the observer of your thoughts. And that's the place you want it to be. So meditation creates the space to become the observer of your thoughts. Once you become the observer, now you're not as identified with them, and you can look at these thoughts and see if they're serving you, if that's what you want to continue to do, or if you want to change, right? But it's a process, and so I would encourage people to just create the practice. Like,
Yes.
there's no such thing as a bad meditation. There's no such thing. It's
Okay.
all overcoming yourself. So if you have thoughts that are saying, "Oh, how long this is going to take," or "This is not working," or whatever that is, keep going, keep sitting in that, because that's the programming coming up telling you to get out. Your ego does not want you to change. The
Yeah.
ego likes comfortability. So that's what you face in the beginning. It's that ego that comes up and is trying to kind of talk you out of it.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be in that. The more you do that, the more you're building awareness, the more you're building that muscle, the more you're reprogramming yourself to be different.
Beautiful. Okay, Vic. Well, thank you so much for all this information. I know this is stuff that you do workshops on, and all this information's out on there. Where can people find your book if they want to read your book?
Yeah, you can find my book on Amazon. It's called Rolling with It, Lessons Learned While Sitting Down. You can also, if you follow me on Instagram and go to my link in bio, the book link is there. And really everything that I'm doing and creating and all that stuff is all posted on my social media. So check that out and you'll get everything from there.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
All right. Here we are. See
Wow,
that behind me?
that is so beautiful. Now talk about manifesting the life of your dreams. Oh my, and still so much more that, you know, like this is not the end of it. Like, I'm just excited to see where you go. I'm excited to see the next steps for you because my God,
This is just the
yeah,
beginning.
definitely
I
somebody
feel it.
to look up to and just kind of, trying to go on that path and live without fear. Live without fear.
Yeah. Thank you. I
Okay.
mean, it's just on that point, like everything, we got to do the things that are scary. And it's the more you are courageous and kind of live like, it's not that you have no fear, right? Like fearlessness is about stepping into the fear and doing it anyway. So it's really about just not holding yourself back and continue doing that. The more you do that, the easier it becomes.
Yes.
Just follow me on Instagram and you'll get everything you need.
Yeah, I'll post all the links on the information, guys. But again, thank you, Vic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And this was very good information. And I can't wait to put it down on myself.
Awesome. Well, thanks for
But
having me. Much love, and I'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon. I can't wait. Have an amazing day.
You too.